Now, students, let's read the problem. And it says, Mr. Thompson invested $8,250 in a bank account for 12 years. The bank pays 10% annual compound interest. He did not make any withdrawals or deposits in the bank account. What is the value of the y-intercept on the graph that represents this situation? Okay, so what is it that we're going to be looking for? Well, it says that we need to find the value for the y-intercept for this situation, right? And of course, we have some information given to us. We know that Mr. Thompson invested this much money for 12 years, and it says that the bank is going to pay a 10% compound interest, right? And also that he is not doing any withdrawals or deposits in the meantime, okay? So how do I know what's the y-intercept, okay? Well, remember that the y-intercept is when x is equals to 0, right? So think about what's happening here. Well, if Mr. Thompson is going to deposit money in the bank, right? And we're talking about so many years, then we got to think about x and y as being my, what is it that is going to be represented with them, right? So let's go ahead and do a little bit like a graph for that. Okay, so what I want to do is I actually want to graph it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with that for the graphing. Now notice how I'm not using any negative numbers here, right? I'm using mainly positives because think about the problem itself. We're talking about money and we're talking about 12 years. Therefore, we have no negative numbers, right? So my x values are going to be the years, right? My y value will be the money in the bank after so many years, okay? So how many years is he gonna invest it? He's gonna invest the money for 12 years, right? So this can be the years, but he is going to start with so much money, right? He starts with $8,250. So before any years goes by, he is gonna start with this much money, right? And that's 8,250. What's gonna happen after that, the first year? Well, more than likely he's gonna have more money and so on and so forth. Is that right? So it's gonna be increasing, okay? And it makes sense because the bank, of course, will give you money for keeping the money in the bank, okay? So the question here is this: when x is 0, what's the y value, right? Well, I don't even need to work it out. I can look at the graph and say, well, it's going to be 8,250. Is that right? This is my x and this is my y value. Because before any years passes by, before we go on any years, well, that's how much money he started with. He started with this much. Is that right? Okay, so sometimes you don't even need to work out that much the question, but you also need to understand the meaning of the problem, okay? And if I was to write down my function, it would be something like this. Remember that one? Where A is the initial value, which is 8,250, where B is going to be the change that is happening, which is 10%. Now remember, this is the same as 0.10, but I need to add it to my 100%. And that gives me 110%, right? Which is the same as 1.1. Okay, so that will be right inside. And the years will be x is the number of years, right? Which is 12. Okay, so keep this in mind because this function is very, very important right now for us. And of course, we're looking only for the starting value, which is that much money. Okay, and let's go ahead and write it down then on my answer. So this is going to be a positive, and I need 8,250 right here. And of course, we need to make sure that we're gonna bubble in the numbers here, the circles. Don't leave anything empty because it will make a difference. Even the 0 right there, if you do not, then it might look like 825. Okay, now the difference here is on the left side. If you do not want a bubble in deposit, if you don't have to, it will not count it wrong for you. Okay, I just like to do it because it makes it look nicer. Okay, so we're done with these questions, right?